Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to my channel. I hope that you all are feeling great. You all are fine. Uh, Today's lecture is uh, about the prosic work of Francis Bacon. Okay, we are going to talk about the prose style of Francis Bacon. We'll discuss some of the aspects of his prosic style, and we'll also talk about his short biography. All right, but before I proceed further uh, regarding this topic, I would like to introduce uh, prose. Well, what is prose? Uh, well, it's a literary genre. Literature has got different genres. For example, drama and poetry are one of the most ancient genres of literature. Okay, poetry, drama, novel, and prose. Okay, these are some major genres of literature. Okay, and all these genres have got some sub branches as well. If we talk about drama, drama has got the branches of tragedy, comedy, tragic comedy, morality plays, etc. And if we talk about poetry, poetry is of different kinds actually. For example, epic poetry, mock epic, elegy, sonnets, etc. So these are some types of poetry. All right. Then, if we talk about prose, uh, prose is actually uh, the opponent of poetry. Something that is not poetry is called prose. Poetry is written in metrical form. Okay, poetry is the metrical composition, poetry is the rhythmic composition, but prose is not so. Prose is written in the ordinary day-to-day language. Okay, that is not in metrical or rhythmic form like poetry. It is a simple way of using language. All right, so prose is the opposite of poetry. It is the counterpart of poetry. Well, if we compare poetry and prose, poetry is poetry has got a very long history. Okay, and this is one of the most ancient genres of literature. But prose developed afterwards. All right, prose developed afterwards, but its history again goes back to King Alfred. Okay, in the ninth century. All right, so it means that prose is not again a new genre of literature. It is also a very old form of literature, old genre of literature, and many works of literature uh, have been produced in prosic form. Well, if we talk about Francis Bacon is regarded the father of English prose. Okay, because he was the first English writer who wrote essays in prosic form. So we'll talk about Francis Bacon here, uh, and we are going to discuss his short biography, and then we'll talk about his prosic style. Okay, so let's begin from Francis Bacon's short biography. Okay, Francis Bacon was born in 1561 and he died in 1626. All right. Uh, Francis Bacon was born on January 22, 1561, in London. He came from an aristocratic family. His father's name was Sir Nicholas Bacon, he Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. Okay, the Great Seal actually uh, was a stamp. It was a seal that was put on a document to show that it is official. Okay, and that was kept by the Lord Chancellor, uh, and it was used on the documents of national importance. Okay, and Francis Bacon's father was the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. Okay, his mother's name was Anne Cook. He entered Trinity College, Cambridge in 1573 at the age of 12 and lived there for 3 years with his elder brother Anthony. Bacon suffered from illness in his youth and was very much prone to reading books. This is the reason behind his seriousness and sobriety. He was very fond of reading uh, when he was a child. At Cambridge, he met the Queen, who was impressed by his precocious intellect and was accustomed to call him the young Lord Keeper. Okay. Okay. In June 1576, both Bacon and his brother Anthony were admitted to Gray's Inn, where they could practice law. But only a few months later, Bacon went abroad with the English ambassador to France and began his practical training in diplomacy. His stay in Paris also gave him an opportunity to acquire proficiency in French language. Okay, so Bacon also had a proficiency in French language because he visited France with the English ambassador. Uh, okay, in 1579, after his father's death, he returned to England and took up residence at Gray's Inn because this was the only place that appeared to be suitable to him. In 1584, he entered Parliament representing Malcolm Regis. In 1586, he represented Taunton, and in 1589, he represented Liverpool in Parliament. So, here we come to know that Francis Bacon has been the part of Parliament. He has been a parliamentarian, and for the first time he became the member of Parliament in 1584, and then in 1586, and then in 1589. So he was an active member of Parliament. He has been an active member of Parliament since 1584. Okay. In 1591, Bacon attached himself to the Earl of Essex, who was at that time the Queen's hot favorite. Okay, Earl of Essex became Bacon's friend. They got attached with each other, and Earl of Essex was the Queen's hot favorite. He was favored by the Queen. Earl of Essex was the great well-wisher of Bacon and always supported him in the matters of government. So Earl of Essex was Bacon's friend, and he was the great well-wisher of Bacon. Bacon was by nature a materialistic type of person who made use of his friend to achieve high place. Okay, Bacon was not sincere with his well-wisher, the Earl of Essex. He only used him for his materialistic gains, for his own advantages and benefits. In other words, he betrayed his well-wisher and got him executed by collecting evidences against him. Okay, so Francis Bacon betrayed his own well-wisher, the Earl of Essex. This is the label on Bacon that determines him to be the meanest of mankind. Okay, Milton has been called the meanest of mankind. Okay, he betrayed his friend and used him for his own advantages. This thing determines that Bacon was the meanest of mankind. It was Alexander Pope who remarked about Bacon that he was the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. Okay, there is a couplet of Alexander Pope uh, in which he called him the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. And the couplet reads as if parts allure these, think how Bacon shined, the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. This is a couplet by Alexander Pope. I would like to read it again. If parts allure these, think how Bacon shined, the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. So it was Alexander Pope who called Bacon the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. There are several arguments regarding his being the wisest, regarding his being the brightest, and regarding his being the meanest of mankind. When we'll discuss Bacon as a moralist, we will also discuss this statement by Alexander Pope as well. Okay, in 1603, James I ascended to the English throne, and Bacon also succeeded to win his favor and managed to obtain knighthood. Okay, in 1605, he published his Advancement of Learning, dedicated to the king. Okay, King James the First was the successor of Queen Elizabeth the First. Okay, and previously in the previous slide, Queen has been mentioned again and again, and it was Queen Elizabeth. Okay, who was the predecessor of James the First, and James the First was throned on English throne in 1603. In 1605, he published his Advancement of Learning, dedicated to the king. He got married in 1606 at the mature age of 45. His wife's name was Alice Barnham. In 1613, he became the Attorney General, that increased his fame and popularity. In 1617, he was appointed Lord Keeper and was promoted to be Lord Chancellor in January 1618. Uh, he has been the very favorite member of the court throughout his life. Okay, if we talk about his father was also the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal, and Bacon also became the Lord Keeper, and he was promoted to the Lord Chancellor in January 1618. And Bacon had also been the part of Parliament. Okay, in 1584, he became the member of Parliament for the first time. Okay, and then again in 1617, he was appointed Lord Keeper and was promoted to be Lord Chancellor in January 1618. So it means that Bacon was a very famous civil servant. You can say that he was the member of the Parliament. He was the very favorite of the Queen and the King as well, because James the First was also impressed by Francis Bacon when he dedicated the book Advancement of Learning to the king. Okay, Bacon was charged of bribery and corruption by his enemies, as a result of which he had to pass through a trial. Okay, he said to the king, "Those that will strike at your chancellor, it is much to be feared, will strike at your crown." Okay, and this remark given by Bacon refers to his cunningness and his shrewdness. That how cunning he was, and how such a manipulator he was. Okay, he said to the king, "Those that will strike at your chancellor, it is much to be feared, will strike at your crown." But the king could do little to help him, and matter was left on the mercy of the House of Lords. On May 3, 1621, the House of Lords, after considerable discussion, decided upon the sentence, which was as follows: that he should pay a fine of £40,000, that he should be imprisoned in the Tower during the King's pleasure, that he should never again hold any public office, and that he should never sit in Parliament. So this was the sentence which was given as a punishment for Bacon. Okay. However, the sentence was not fully carried out. He was released from the Tower after 4 days. His fine was remitted, and the ban on his presence at the court was withdrawn, though the bar against his sitting in Parliament was not removed. Okay. So if we look at the sentence is that he should pay a fine of £40,000. Okay, the fine was remitted. That he should be imprisoned in the Tower during the King's pleasure, and he was released from the imprisonment after 4 days. That he should never again hold any public office, and he should never be the member of court. He should never sit in the court. Okay, but this ban was also removed. But that he should never sit in the Parliament, this ban was not removed, and he was not able to sit in the Parliament after that. The remaining 5 years of his life were very productive for Francis Bacon. He spent these years in work that was far more valuable to the world than anything he had accomplished in his high office. He devoted himself to the pursuit of knowledge. Thus, from literary and philosophical point of view, this last period of his life was indeed the most precious. He produced histories: history of Henry VII, history of Great Britain, etc., the Augmentis, the Latin translation with the expansion of the advancement of learning, and New Atlantis. These are some major works of Francis Bacon. Last but not the least, he finally revised his essays with a number of new papers, raising to total to 58. In March 1626, he was driving one day near Highgate. He decided to make an experiment about the process of putrefaction. Okay, the process of decay of dead bodies. Okay, he decided to make an experiment about the process of putrefaction, which is the process of decay of dead bodies. He wanted to know whether snow could delay the process of putrefaction. He purchased a hen and with his own hands stuffed it with snow. As a result, he caught a chill, and on April 9, 1626, he died of bronchitis. Okay. As a result, he caught a chill, and on April 9, 1626, he died of bronchitis. Bronchitis is an illness that affects the bronchial tubes leading to the lungs. Okay, this is a disease that is related to the bronchial, related to the bronchial tubes, the tubes that lead to the lungs. So this was all about Francis Bacon's biography. Hopefully the contents were helpful for you. Now we'll talk about Bacon's prose style. Okay, what is style? We need to know first, what is style? A particular way of doing or producing something. Style is a particular way of doing or producing something. If invention addresses what is to be said, style addresses how this will be said. Okay, for example, well, right now I'm recording this lecture. Okay, I have got all the contents here, but the way I am delivering those contents to the people is my style. Okay, how am I doing this thing? How am I delivering these contents to you people? This is my style. Okay, style reflects the personality of an author. The credit of introducing the essays into English literature goes to Bacon. If we talk about essays into English literature, the credit goes to Bacon because he was the person who introduced essays into English literature. He is the man who introduced a new genre into the literature of his country. His is the first great name in the history of the English essay, which subsequently became an important branch of English literature and which was practiced by numerous English authors. Okay, so therefore Bacon is called the father of English prose because he was the first person who introduced the essays into English literature, and this new genre contributed a lot to the development of English literature, and many authors after Bacon practiced this genre in English literature. So, Bacon's prose style. Montaigne, a Frenchman, published his first two books of essays in 1580. It was from him that Bacon derived the word essay. According to Bacon, the word essay means certain brief notes set down rather significantly than curiously. Okay, so this thing also reflects in Bacon's essays. Well, he is the man who only sets down uh, uh, brief notes, okay, that are significant. For example, if we talk about his style of writing, if we talk about his essays, he merely mentions the things that are significant. Okay, he does not go into the explanation of those things. So the word curiously has been used here in a different way. Certain brief notes set down rather significantly means he is only concerned with the important and significant things. He is not concerned with the explanation of these things. Whatever he mentions, he does not explains them. He does not go for the explanation or illustration. Okay, he merely goes on mentioning the ideas. He goes on setting them down briefly, and he does not explain them. Okay, he took the form of the essays from Montaigne but adopted it to his own purpose. Okay, stylistic qualities of Bacon's essays. Bacon's prose style is remarkable for its terseness, condensation. Okay, uh, sentences are pregnant with meaning and are capable of being expanded into several sentences. Well, if we talk about Bacon's sentences, they are terse. Okay, rather they are too terse sometimes, and sometimes they are too simple. But Bacon's simplicity is deceptive. Okay, his simple sentences are often as complex as they cannot be understood by a layman sometimes. Okay, so terseness is there, complexity is there, but at the same time deceptive simplicity is there. So the second characteristic of Bacon's prose style is condensation. Okay, sentences are pregnant with meaning and are capable of being expanded into several sentences. Okay, they can be expanded into several sentences. For example, if I quote the line of the essay of Parents and Children, Bacon says, "The joys of parents are secret, so are their griefs and fears." Okay, well, if we talk about these two statements, the joys of parents are secret, An essay can be written on this. Okay, this phrase, this small phrase can be expanded into several sentences. It can be the topic of an essay as well. So condensation is there. His sentences are pithy and condensed. Then proverbial sayings: he that hath wife and children hath given hostage to fortune. A lie faces God and shrinks from man. Children sweeten labors, but they make misfortune more bitter. They increase the cares of life, but they mitigate the remembrance of death. Okay, well, these sentences have become the part of everyday life, and they are quoted as proverbial sayings in the world by different people. So Bacon's sentences have become proverbs of everyday use. Okay, his sentences are just like proverbial sayings. Brevity and precision. Bacon can say the most in the fewest possible words. Okay, he believes in the brevity. Brevity is the soul of wit. Hamlet, Shakespeare says brevity is the soul of wit, and Bacon believes in this. Okay, crafty men condemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. Well, in this one sentence, he has you know explained. He has explained the feelings or the thoughts or the ideas of different people regarding studies. Okay, for example, the crafty men condemn studies. The people who have a craft, who have any craft in their hands, who have any art in their hands, they condemn studies, and the simple men admire them, and the wise men use their studies. Okay, some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Okay, in this one sentence, Bacon has differentiated between all the types of books. Okay, reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So all these sentences have been taken from the essay of studies, and these statements, these sentences precisely convey the idea. There is brevity in these sentences. Bacon does not go for the explanations. He does not use long sentences. Okay, the sentences are not long. They are very small sentences, but they briefly explain the idea in a very beautiful and attractive manner. So next characteristic of Bacon's prose style is aphorism. An aphoristic style means a compact, condensed, and epigrammatic style of writing. Okay, it is compact, condensed, and epigrammatic style of writing. A mixture of a lie doth ever add plier. Okay, he that hath wife and children hath given hostage to fortune. Unmarried men are best friends, best masters, best servants, but not always best subjects. Wives are young men's mistresses, companions for middle age, and old men's nurses. Okay, well, if we talk about this statement, wives are young men's mistresses. Okay, companions for middle age, and old men's nurses. In this sentence, he has explained the whole philosophy of married life. How wives are important for their husbands in their different spans of life. For example, he says wives are young men's mistresses. They become companions in the middle age, okay, and they become the nurses of old men. So in this sentence, Bacon has you know uh, explained the whole philosophy of married life in a beautiful manner. Then Milton uses antithesis and anticlimax in order to beautify his style. In his essays, he tells the advantages and disadvantages of a particular issue. Okay, antithesis and anticlimax is a literary technique in which the writer uh, uh, opposes two different things. For example, um, in one part of the sentence, the writer talks about the positivities, and in the next part of the sentence, he talks about the negativities, and the vice versa. Okay, so children sweeten labors, but they make misfortune more bitter. Here, children sweeten labors, okay, the positive aspect, but they make misfortune more bitter, the negative aspect. This is the anticlimactic statement. Okay, crafty men condemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. So here again the negative aspect, crafty men condemn studies, then the two positive aspects. Okay, unmarried men are best friends, positive aspect, best masters, best servants, these three positive aspects. Okay, but not always the best subjects, not always best subjects, this is the negative aspect. All right, uh, then the rising unto great place is laborious, the rising unto great place is laborious, and by pains men come to greater pains, and it is sometimes base, and by indignities men come to dignities. So these are the antithetical or anticlimactic statements that have been given by Bacon in his different essays. So this thing also beautifies Bacon's prose style. Okay, then frequent use of figures of speech like metaphors and similes. Okay, Bacon frequently uses metaphors and similes in his essays. Uh, for example, for a crowd is not a company, and faces are but a gallery of pictures, and talk but a tinkling cymbal where there is no love. Okay, so Milton has compared the crowd with a gallery of pictures. Okay, and uh, and he has compared their talk with the tinkling cymbal. Okay, cymbal is a musical instrument that is beaten along with the drums. Okay, in the modern instruments, musical instruments, it is also used. It was also used in the ancient times as well. But Milton says that crowd is not a company, and faces are but a gallery of pictures. He compares their faces with a gallery of pictures. Okay, and he compares their talk with their talks with the tinkling cymbal where there is no love. Okay, then suspicions among thoughts are like bats. Suspicions, bats. Okay, he compares the suspicions, the doubts, with bats among birds. They ever fly by twilight. So ambition is like choler. Ambition is like choler. Again, it's a simile, which is an humor that maketh men active. All right. So here Bacon refers to the theory of humor, according to which man's body is the mixture of four elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Okay, earth, water, fire, and air. So choler is anger, or it can be related with the element of fire. Okay, ambition is like color, which is an humor that maketh man active. Okay, so metaphors and similes are frequently used by Milton in order to lend his essays subtlety and charm. All right, so next we'll talk about the next characteristic, that is abrupt opening and abrupt ending. So Bacon always starts his essays abruptly. Okay, he does not give any pre-sequence to his essays. For example, the essay of Parents and Children immediately starts, and it reads as the joys of parents are secret, so are their griefs and fears. Children sweeten labors, but they make misfortune more bitter. Okay, so there is no pre-sequence, there is no introduction to the subject, there is no introduction to the topic. So Milton immediately or abruptly starts his essay. He opens his essay quite abruptly and ends the essay quite abruptly. He does not conclude at the end. He leaves the conclusion to the readers. All right, he does not give any conclusion at the end. He abruptly ends wherever he wants. All right, and then Milton uses allusions and references from different classical writers. This is also a Renaissance feature because Milton belongs to Renaissance era. He quotes different Latin quotations. He mentioned different classical writers. Okay, so there are various references and allusions that can be found in Bacon's essays. All right, so these are these are the characteristics of Bacon's prose style, as we have read here. Okay, first of all, we talked about Bacon's biography. Okay, we read his short biographical sketch. Then we discussed his prose style, and we also came to know that Bacon is referred to as the father of English prose because he borrowed the essays from Montaigne. Okay, he was the first person who introduced the essays into English literature, and this genre was capitalized on by different authors in future as well. So regarding his characteristics of prose style, we read that terseness is there. These are his remarkable features: terseness, condensation, proverbial sayings, brevity and precision, aphorism, antithesis and anticlimax, frequent use of figures of speech like metaphors and similes, abrupt opening and abrupt ending, and allusions and references from different classical writers. So this was all about today's lecture. I hope that you have understood it very well. If there are any further suggestions, you can give those suggestions in the comment below, and do not forget to suggest a new idea. Okay, if you want to learn about anything, you can suggest the topic. Inshallah, I'll try my best to do a research on that, and I'll record a lecture on that. If you have any questions or queries, you can ask your questions in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching the video. Thank you very much for being here. See you in the next video. See you in the next lecture. Stay blessed. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.